What's up, folks? You are once again joining us for my Sketchy Goodness with the amazing Keith Grachow. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Already, we've got some viewers on YouTube. So if you've watched before, I told Keith this before the episode started, but I'm going to say it now. I have not joined a cult. This is a wonderful tunic I got at a medieval Christmas market. And in fact, you know what? I want to make sure I say the name of the company. Because this thing is soft. It's very nice. And where is it? St. Pyro's Mail. They do chain mail, plate armor, clothing, camping supplies, cutlery, which I thought was, but okay, cool. Metal crafting. Why not? It's just very comfy. It looks nice. They make a version without this. They make a black version, which I will probably be getting at some point. Yeah, it's just comfy. So that's all that's going on with me. No cult, I promise. Unless you're a part of a comic book cult, and then
that's
contact me.
I'm going to share my screen now. Let me know. Yeah, there we go. I'm working on the latest issue of Donnybrook by Mess Bucket Comics. So I'm not going to really talk too much about what's going on, just because I don't want to give anything away. But we can ask if you have any questions. We can go over that. But I have a question for you. So you went to is it a medieval fair? Like, is that a thing that you like to do, or?
So the thing I went to, yes, it was a medieval Christmas market put on by a company called Blades of Glory, which, to my understanding, is a company. So Blades of Glory does Ren fairs and stuff like that, but they also do HEMA, which stands for something European martial arts, historical European martial arts. Essentially, it's all sword work, blade work. I call it fencing, but when I see what HEMA is compared to when I think of fencing, like Olympic fencing, very different. Although rapiers are used. So yeah, they hosted a medieval Christmas market, which had a whole bunch of really cool stuff. I wonder. Well,
So
I mean,
is it like a little bit like LARP, like LARPing?
That particular event, no. So it was held in a community center, which is basically a church. It felt like in Peterborough, and one great setting for it because it was a very, very long, vaulted ceilings, cathedral style, beautiful ceiling work and roof work and the archways and stuff. But people that went, if they felt so inclined, could dress up. But you did not have to. Myself, my partner, and two of our friends went. I have a cloak that my partner made, sort of reminiscent of like a Hobbit cloak from the Lord of the Rings. I put that on because I didn't want to put on a winter jacket, and it works quite well. And we went. Otherwise they were all in like normal streetwear. Most of the people attending were in normal streetwear. But like when we walked up, for instance, there's three or four steps to get up into this church. And there were two suits of armor there. And, we turned a corner, we saw them, and I was like, oh, that's really cool that they set up some armor. And then the two people moved and greeted you, and it was like, oh, those are just people in armor. Cool. I'd say knights, but that's not quite proper. But yes, they were basically knights there. And then, yeah, like it was so cool because when we got through the door, they check your tickets, and we'd ordered online, so they check your name off, and yes, and they give you a little wristband, which I have. I've torn it off, but you get like your little wristband like you get at any show. And you go in, and immediately, like literally through the door to get into the event, there was a dude standing there, and he's wearing like a red and black. I don't have the term for basically like armor. It's a red and black armored style jacket, not like chain or metal, but like padding. He had the symbol for Blades of Glory on his chest. He had pants on that are historically accurate. Again, leather boots, and he had a big black glove on because he's a falconer. And he had an animal, it's a red-tailed hawk. But at first, me and my friends were all like, "Oh, that's really cool taxidermy," because in the art circles that we travel, that's not uncommon. And it was an extremely still animal, and it had coverings on its eyes, so it couldn't see, but it could hear, which helped keep it calm, according to the gentleman. But then he touched it, like one might, and he put his arm out, and he indicated that he was there, and all of a sudden, the bird's wing sort of fluttered, and it stepped onto his arm, and he moved it around. And I guess during the day, because I went on the Sunday, but they had it the Saturday as well. There was like falconry that he did, so he would get it to fly off and grab a training toy, things like that, which is super cool. And then like when you actually go in the thing, they had all sorts of basically vendors. It was, in my mind, like I very much viewed it as like Artist's Alley, but for people who make tunics and armor and leather work. I don't have it on me. It's downstairs. I got a hair accessory. I didn't think I was gonna like be into it, but I saw it and I was like, that's kind of cute. And then I was like, it looks pretty good. Oh heck, where is it? Well, basically, it's a leather maple leaf done in like sort of auburn and orange colors. And it's got a metal clip on it just to clip into your hair. And so I taken my hair back and clipped it in the back, just to where basically my ponytail was. It was pretty cool. Our good friend Paul Kemp. Awesome pages. Thanks for giving us another great sketchy show, Paul. Thank you, sir. And yes,
hello, my friend. So, like, my question about all of this is, there's obviously like a connectiveness with all of this, like going to like medieval fairs, LARPing, cosplay, comic books, D&D. Do you think that, like, how do you think that the connection of those things, like, do you think that if somebody gets into D&D, they'll eventually get into comics, or is there like what are your thoughts in regards to that community, like the like all those types of things? Because I did do D&D for when I was a kid, but I haven't done it in a long time. I don't do role playing at all. I don't do LARP, and I don't do, so I'm very specifically comic book oriented. But I know people that do a little bit of everything. So
yeah, well, I mean, so I am very much like a dabbler. Yes, I have tons of comics. I love comics, forever will. But I do very much so play D&D. I am actively running a game where I am the dungeon master. In front of me is a map of a place called Icewind Dale in the Forgotten Realms setting of Dungeons and Dragons. And when it comes to like, the bleed over, I guess you can call it, the crossover, I definitely feel like, oh god, how big of a rabbit hole do we want to go? Let's do it. So, starting from comics, right? People love comics. The most popular comics, of course, are superhero comics, just because it's the most created and the most easily accessible. Not to mention some solid, amazing artists and writers out there creating comic book superhero stories. And what I find is folks who are really into comics tend to be open to more interesting stories, so they'll go into. For some reason, I always find it's sci-fi first, which then dips into horror, which then allows people to dip into fantasy. Sometimes they go from sci-fi to fantasy. Sometimes, myself included, comics just a fantasy. But yeah, I find there's definitely like a big crossover there because I mean, what are superheroes if not for sure sci-fi, especially when you talk about mutants or metahumans, but also like it's fantasy, absolutely. When you look at characters like Conan, uh, heck, there's King Arthur comics, Blade, absolutely from Marvel. Consider him like a rogue or a fighter class, absolutely. So I think there's just like inherently, because there is so much in comics and so much in superhero comics, that it touches on all of those things. And the more you read comics, the more you diversify. You want different voices, you want different styles. And so you'll touch on, maybe you go out and you read Die, which is literally a comic about kids playing D&D, getting sucked into the game, and then in the first issue they pop back out 20 years later, or we meet them again 20 years later, and all sorts of horrible things have happened to them, and they have to go back into the game and make it right. Yeah, really cool series. So yeah, I think like that's just sort of steeping in comic books. You do it long enough and you'll get into everything else. Regarding the LARPing and everything, like I personally do love playing D&D. I'm, like I said, running the game, creating the story itself for my friends. Going from that to LARPing, I think is a matter of comfort and desire for sure. Because I don't know if I want to do LARPing. I think it would be a fun experience, but I feel like if you're going to do it, by God, you have to do it. You've got to commit. And I don't mean, spend thousands of dollars on armor and weapons and, that. But like, if you're going to be there, play that role, be that character. Even if it doesn't mean you put on a funny voice or whatever. But like, if you're going to go LARPing, put Konrad aside and become, I don't know, Sir Merrick the Bold or whatever for that period of time. Because what I will say, and I've noticed, because I've played D&D with a few other people as a player, and I've seen other, podcasts and things that do it, when it comes to that kind of stuff, it is comfortable to play and go, oh, I'm a rogue. I would like to do this, and I would like to try and intimidate this character or steal from them or whatever it is. And that's comfortable, especially when you're around like a group of 6 other friends. But if you can be like really into it and put voices in it and get really freaky with it, and I walk up behind the guard and I like there's something special to that. And if the moment one person even does it, you allow everyone else to do it and just kind of enjoy, which I mean can be said for so much, like doing art, like reading comics, just being comfortable being the nerdy weird person. Yeah, I definitely feel there's a lot of bleed over when it comes to that. And like interestingly, one of the vendors who had all sorts of cute little knickknacks and mushroom and fairy themed things, they had written a book, fantasy book, and they had some comic style art there. So like it's very clear there's a connection, and I think it's just a matter of maybe overall, letting your nerdy freak flag fly and being like, hey, I'm into this weird thing, and I don't care if you are, but if you are, come hang out. Or hey, I'm into this weird thing, and if you like another weird thing, I'm cool with that. You can do your weird thing around me, and we're all comfy. So I think that there's a lot of that to it. I think that's about it. Yeah, like it's just, I don't know, it's in it. Yeah.
It's like I can totally see the connection. One of my things is like, I guess it's time and money, right? Like for me, I mean, when I played as a kid, I mean, I was collecting comics and I was playing D&D. and did a bit of video games. But as you get older, for me, it was like, okay, I've got to make a decision, right? Like I've got to
Yes.
choose how I spend my time, because you can easily get sucked down the rabbit hole with video games. And I actually, if anything, I see huge benefits of playing D&D, because like there's just, to be a storyteller, writer, it's great for that. For that, if you're an artist, it's great for you to like, conceptualize the place and the characters and stuff. So I totally see a lot of benefit to it. But I also know that, like, for me, it'd be like, okay, am I taking too much time away from the comic book stuff?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm impressed with people that like can really like divide their time in a way where they're like, okay, so I'm gonna do like my D&D once a week, and then I've got like my like I write, and then I also go to shows, and I also like do the LARPing thing, and
Mhm.
right. So I do find it, like there are people I know that do all that stuff, and I'm always like, good on you for doing it all. I'm so, I guess, myopic with what I want to do.
Yes. No, and I think it's one totally valid. Because also there is so much time that you can put into these things. Like I said, even just video games. It is so easy to turn on the video game and get lost in that world and enjoy. Even if it's something like COD, where you're just, Call of Duty, you're just dropping into a map and playing with your buddies and shooting up and doing whatever it is that you're doing in your map. And especially if it was a game with like a story to it. I'm currently working my way through the remake of Final Fantasy VII. I have an ungodly amount of hours in that game. Mind you, I only try and do it once or twice a week, because trying to write is something I'm actively trying to do more of, and
Mhm.
takes time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's time commitment was. I think you're right, and I think one of the things too is that time commitment to do it, to be able to show up on a weekly basis, to put the energy in to perform it. Um, it does take a lot, and I think that is why there is such a popularity with things like Critical Role. Um, excuse me. I know that I forget the name of it, but the actress Deborah Ann Wool, she leads another group. Um, the actress plays.
Daredevil.
Yes. Oh my god, yes, you knew. Oh, perfect. Love you, Keith. You're the best. Um, she's fantastic. She does one. I know that like there was a thing where like Terry Crews and Vin Diesel did some. So there's clearly an interest to it, and I think that's why people gravitate toward it, because with Critical Role, for instance, every Thursday at, well, today at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, they go live on YouTube and they do like a 3.5 to 4.5 hour session. Um, the kicker with that is it's them, like they're all of them almost exclusively are in some capacity either voice actors or have acting and what's the term for it where you yes and people
Oh, like improv.
improv, yes, improv training, because they really go for it and it makes it very interesting.
Mhm.
um but yeah, it's one of those things where you're absolutely right. It's, do you really want to do it? Because if you really want to on a consistent basis, you'll find the time to do it, but it
Mhm.
does take time. I will say being a player is far easier because you just hopefully took some notes. If you're playing D&D as a player, take notes, please.
Mhm.
Um, because that makes sure that you know what you're doing, where you were, where you started, where you left off, and you get to show up, whether it's once a month, once a week, whatever your schedule is with your guys, or your team, your table, and enjoy the story that your dungeon master or game master has created. Um, so it can be fairly chillax. And I know someone I work with is playing a game, and they're just ridiculous with it. And they have fun with it. He got himself cursed, in which the curse flipped where his face and his butt were, and he had to live like that for a while.
That's funny.
Yeah, exactly. So you can be like as goofy or as intense with it as you want. It's just up to you. Yeah.
What I find it very interesting, there's got to be like campaigns that have been going on for like years or decades.
Yes.
Right? Like that's got to be an interesting thing where like a story you started in 1997 is still going almost 30 years later, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
that would be an interesting thing to document, like to find out, like how that's affected somebody's life. Like if it's, if it's just something that they do for like, 4 hours every Wednesday, and that's it, or is it like, are they like living like a whole lifestyle around it where they've created costumes for it and they go out and cosplay at shows as these characters, and they've got this whole long. If everybody's documenting things, then there's like books upon books upon books of all the things that have happened over the decades, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's interesting you mentioned that. So famously, Critical Role. That series, which has been going on for I want to say 10 years now. It started off as a home game between the 6 or 7 people that are in the show, and after a certain period of time, they were just like, "Hey, we're all talented. We are really into this. Let's just record it. Let's just do it. Let's see what happens." And it just sort of built off of that. One of the personalities that's very, very famous in that space as well, the gentleman's name is Brennan Lee Mulligan, who is currently running the game in Critical Role. Typically, it's been run by a voice actor named Matt Mercer, who famously plays in Overwatch, plays one of the characters is a cowboy. He's run all of their games so far, so this is his first time as a player, which is kind of interesting, and he does a really cool job of it. But yeah, Brendan Lee Mulligan famously had a game that lasted 14 years.
Wow.
And I guess to finish it, what they did was all of him and his players all booked off like a week. They rented a cottage out somewhere local-ish to where they are. And they played for like straight like 12, 13 hours a day.
Wow.
And finished out this campaign just to like sort of close it off and get a big finish to it, but also like closure. Because yeah, I think the experience that a lot of people have with D&D, and what I think is perfectly fine and wonderful, and if you're enjoying it, hell yeah, you are, is when people play a game that lasts maybe only 8 sessions or something, right? You meet up with your buddies, you have a good time, you have a couple drinks, some snacks, some food, and you sit down for 4 hours once a month for a year and play like a nice, succinct little story. You finish it, you have a good time, you go on your way. Maybe you come back for another game later.
Right.
And I think that is the majority of D&D, right? It's not like these huge, epic stories that have been crafted and, they have tons of lore about gods and demons and political powers. It's a lot of it is like, oh, you fought some orcs. There was some crazy stuff going on with an innkeeper. There were some ghosts, and it's just something to enjoy and unwind with.
I wonder, and so kind of talking about cross-pollination, if there's been anybody who, let's say, becomes like a game developer, right, and takes one of those campaigns and starts to go, what does the world look like visually, and create an actual the world that they created from their campaign. And then like, is that something then all of a sudden they can transfer, like continue the game, but now all of a sudden they're all like online doing it from wherever they live? Like, it'd be interesting to know if like there's been somebody out there or like a team of people that have like, hey, instead of doing this, we still get together to play this game once a week at home, but now maybe we open up to anybody who wants to be part of it, and we can jump on at any time to like go on a separate adventure that's not part of the campaign we're on currently. like that must be a really, like especially with some of the game engines, the open, um, source code that they've got, that you can just go in and like, create worlds.
Oh yeah.
Do you know of anything like that where anybody's done anything like that?
I don't know of directly to be able to say yes, definitively this, this, and this, but I think you're absolutely correct. There are for sure, without doubt, um, even probably just books based on D&D campaigns that people have had.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more than willing to bet folks have played D&D, come up with some really cool characters, come up with some amazing stories, and gone, you know what? Let's make a game.
Yeah.
Um, like when I thought it was a good question, so I Googled it actually. I looked up games developed based on a D&D campaign. Um, there's a lot of stuff that is like, oh, if you love D&D, you'll love this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the big famous game right now, if you're a video gamer, want to do D&D, but don't quite know how to connect with a group of 4 to 5 other people and someone to run a game. Baldur's Gate 3 is out there. It exists. It has won a number of awards. It is extremely successful as a game. And it is absolutely just D&D. It doesn't quite mechanically run like 1-to-1 with real D&D. They've had to tweak some stuff because it is a video game. But I think it gets the spirit of D&D down, and it feels good to play.
Mm-hmm. The closest thing that I remember to D&D was, or what it would look like live, was what was that video game from the 80s that used the Ralph Bakshi animation? I'm blanking on it right now. Somebody out there knows. It's easy. He did. I'm pretty certain he did the animation for it, and there was like a whole like I remember playing it, and it was like one of the most advanced things I'd ever seen, because it was essentially was it
an animated? It was animated, correct?
it was an animated video game.
Oh, yes, arcade cabinet, right?
No,
No.
is it like Dungeon Mat? What was it? Crap, I can imagine what the guy looked like, and they it was like there was always lore around it that there was going to be like a full length, like some kind of full length movie based off of it, or like some kind of but it was in the for when it came out in the 80s. It was really cool. Like you would see it in like arcades and stuff. It would just be like they would have a whole like animated beginning, and then you would get to choose a couple of things. It was basic, but
Yeah.
it's still, I can't believe I'm blanking on it, because but that was I'm pretty certain that was like based off the idea of like Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Oh, I would think so.
Is it Dragon Slayer
So I've looked up just to make sure I'm spelling this correctly. The last name Bakshi, right?
Yeah, like the animator.
Yeah. Let's see here. Bakshi. It's gonna pop onto Wikipedia. Not that it's a proper academic source, but if you're really smart about it, you can pop to the bottom of the page and get those. Anyway, early life, career, holy career.
Pretty certain it was him that did it. I could be wrong about that, but or just look up animated video game from 1980s animation, like with a knight.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Dragon's Lair.
Not Dragon Slayer, Dragon's Lair.
Lair, yeah.
I did say it. I said Dragon Slayer, but I was like, that doesn't sound quite right. It's Dragon's Lair, and it was
yes.
like, it was a really cool 80s kind of, what eventually we would have, Exactly. And so they've done more stuff with it, obviously. But it was just really cool. Yeah. So 40 years. So it was in the 80s. Yeah. Did you
Yeah.
ever play it? Do you know? Did you?
I'm very familiar with it. I have not played it myself. From what I know of it, what I always found really cool was, yeah, so the versions I've seen of it are usually in an arcade cabinet, and basically, yeah, you put in your quarter or whatever, you hit play, um, and you've got, if I'm not mistaken, it was basic control, so it was, you left, right, up, down, and then usually there's like a jump and an attack button,
Yeah.
um, and basically, yeah, this animated film would start playing, and then based on your a nice little clock on there for you. Um, Based on what's going on, you would want to move the character around, and the animation would play of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, they would basically just very meticulously. I'm sure it must have been crazy to have to do this, but meticulously they would animate. Oh, if you hit this particular corridor and you hit left, you open this door, X happens, and you might
Yeah.
die and
Yep.
fail.
Yep.
Another corridor, try again, hit right, and so on. There are really cool speed runs of this because it's a really interesting game. I don't know of any games
And it was Ralph Bakshi,
exactly.
right? That did it.
Let's find out. Dragon Slayer artist. All go away, AI.
We'll just go to yeah. Don Bluth. Don Bluth. Okay, my bad.
Ah,
Don Bluth.
director Don Bluth. Yeah. Although this absolutely like this kind of a frame, does remind me of like Ralph Bakshi's like Fire and Ice and stuff.
Yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking of because he did Fire and Ice. Yeah. So,
which, if folks are of the correct age and have not seen Fire and Ice, super cool. Animation is awesome in it. Yeah, absolutely, you gotta check that out.
So, yeah, I mean, there's for sure, there's a lot of connections, I mean, with all the things, the animation and
Big time.
Video games and comics and all that stuff connected together. I find it interesting. Like there's still like, I mean, there are still gatekeepers. There's still people that, or there were at least, where it's like, I'm into comics, but I'm not into like D&D, like that kind of, or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm into like D&D, but I would never LARP. That's just like a step too far or whatever. I don't know, but like there's always still like a little bit of a stigma for some people to do some of these things, but yeah, I do find it that there's a whole and nowadays there's high schools that have like clubs dedicated to this stuff, right?
Oh,
it's no longer something you do in your basement. You can actually, they actually introduce light, sunlight to these things so people can play, out in front of everybody, right?
Yes. Yeah, my partner actually is the teacher supervisor for a D&D club at the school they teach at.
Right. That's pretty cool though. I just think that it's great that all that stuff that we had to, that we were, when I was a kid, you kind of didn't really talk about it in public, right? Or if you did, you had to be kind of discreet. You get somebody like, if you're talking about it in the hallway, somebody would grab your like notebook and throw it, geek, throw it across the hall or something.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So you kind of had to be a little bit discreet about the stuff you were doing with it, but or you wouldn't. What'd you do this weekend? It's like you wouldn't necessarily tell everybody you played like a D&D campaign all weekend, right?
Oh, exactly.
Like, I just hung out with some friends, right? That was about as far as you got with that. So it's cool that there's this whole world that's that everybody can be part of now. That's no longer relegated to those that feel outcast, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're all outcast in that way.
100%. Like it's definitely been interesting. I am very fortunate to have been born when I was born, because I feel like I've gotten to watch the end of mass shaming for people being into not mainstream stuff. And then as I got into my 20s, the mass adoption of all of it. I remember, sort of on the end of video games, I remember the first time I saw League of Legends has. So League of Legends is a video game that's out there. If you're not into it, I honestly don't recommend it. Um, Netflix has a show called Arcane that is based in that
Yeah,
world.
I've watched the show. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
The game itself, probably don't play it. They have other, like, they have a game called Hearthstone, one called 2XKO, which is a 2D fighter that just came out. I happen to like 2D fighting games. I find it quite good. But like I remember the first time I saw Worlds, which is honestly lives up to the title, and is really about worlds, where teams from around the world who have gone and literally like gone through like local League of Legends tournaments to then provincial level, country level, hemisphere level to worlds.
Mhm.
And the first time I really watched one, the opening blew me away because normally the company that produces League, they do a lot of storytelling through music videos, animations, arcane. Um, so that way when you actually play the game, other than the fact that your characters will say lines at each other, there's no like big stopping point, right? Like you can load up League, hit go, be in a lobby, find a game, click a character and play like pretty quickly.
Mhm.
And it doesn't want to bog you down with story. It's like, all right, you're here to mechanically play this game, go. So they do all that kind of storytelling through all of the other media. And I find it's fascinating because the world they've built is super cool. Um, and yeah, so anyway, worlds. They had the one I watched this year. It actually just happened like 3 weekends ago. Worlds was in Shanghai. I think last year it was in Seoul, Korea.
Hmm.
And like the events themselves, again, these are usually hour-long video games that 12 people, no, 10, two teams of 5 play against each other. And usually an hour. So in this tournament format, I think it was best 2 out of 3. I may be very wrong. I did not watch it this year. So if you're like super into League, I'm sorry. But they had stadiums, like massive stadiums where you would expect Metallica or Ed Sheeran or One Direction or who's popular now? Sabrina Carpenter to play and fill. Well, these stadiums were filled with people to watch League.
That's crazy.
It really it is when you think about it because like the act of playing League is no more physically interesting than what I am doing with you right now. In fact, possibly less so because I'm talking with you about different stuff and we have questions. Whereas the guys that are playing this game, when you see them, they're like, uh, basically all you hear is the clicking of the mouse, sometimes the clicking of the keyboard, the movement of the mouse, and like you'll hear them like jot basically like militaristically, you know, this character there, this character low, whatever, need heals, whatever. But like, of course, the gameplay they broadcast it on a massive screen, and you can watch it, and that's what people are there for. But like that even kicks off with like a massive concert. Lil Nas X made a music video or made a song, which they made a music video for, and
Right.
he performed live there. They had another group of different musicians, singers, I guess I'd call them. I believe Madison Beers,
Right.
Addison Beers. Again, like live concerts, and they had like 3D rendered characters coming out and dancing with the music, like the singers. It was crazy. And
Wow.
I hit that moment and I was like, cool. Video games are just super mainstream now. And I love that, right? Everyone's just like, oh,
Yeah.
you're a gamer? Cool.
Yeah. I mean, you can make a career out of it, obviously, right? So
Quite literally, which is wild to think about. I've also like when I think about that because I find it interesting because I remember like I was a big fan of Overwatch, and I remember Overwatch League came out, which was their competitive arm, and there was games you could watch, and there was a whole season of these games, just like hockey or baseball. And like the average age of these people, I want to say was 18 to 25. And in my brain, I'm like, okay, like you're good at the game, clearly. You're on one of these teams. You've competed enough to get on them. You're getting paid to do this. That's super cool. And my brain went like, what's like the career projection for that though? Like, I'm really curious because it's never really been done before. It's not like you have a professional gamer, and I won't. Well, I get it. It's called esports. I don't see it being the same as like physical sports, if you will. Like, I don't think you're going to become a baseball player or a Overwatch League player.
You've seen there was a racing movie that just came out like a couple of years ago where that's exactly what it was.
Gran Turismo. Yes.
Yeah. Like somebody.
Yes.
So there are some. I've read that there are some like. Well, I mean, there are people, the military, for example, using drones. So being able to play video games in your youth gives you really good eye-hand coordination, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
Something like being able to, remotely maneuver a drone using that same skill, right? I mean, obviously, there's all aspects of being able to translate video games into whether it's creating code or so they use hackers to get into things, right? There's all I mean, they use simulations for things, right?
Yeah.
So there are for sure translations to it. To your point of like, I guess it, in some ways it kind of depends on the type of video game it is. Would you, if you're playing a League of Legends type game where like you're just using buttons to like make the person move and do things. I'm not sure if that translates to like being able to be a military person in some way.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting.
But maybe if you're playing a sports game, it does, because at least you're learning like all the different like you're maybe intimately, especially if you're like playing the latest Madden, right? You're intimately familiar with like whatever they've released in regards to being able to like, okay, so we're going to do this maneuver and whatever.
Oh yeah.
So
that'd be interesting. Yeah, if they could take someone who like hardcore plays the most recent Madden, which based on the year we're in would be Madden 2K25. And like have them become a coach and like run a football team. That'd be really interesting.
Right. Like, yeah, you wouldn't necessarily be a player because playing doesn't translate to like, unless it's some kind of, although now that we do have 3D becoming part of like the, much more common, and they're I'm sure going to have more rooms where you can actually, they'll put you in some kind of pod where you can actually move around and you're like on a treadmill and you can like go and do all these different things that are somewhat physical as long. So you may be attached, but you're also going to be able to like, like, okay, I've been climbing the whole day. So you're doing the movements, right? You may be hindered a bit because of not being able to actually physically move the way but it'd be interesting if they created like the ability for you to like flip. And so you learn, so you're all harnessed up, but you learn what it feels like to actually flip, and then if you try in the real world, you're like, well, I kind of, you need maybe a couple of tries on like a mat, but then because you'd already know, like, some of the maybe some of the fear or the trepidation from flipping would be gone. Right. So it could translate. There is a world where that can start to translate for kids to, if you have a skateboard, it's just harnessed in.
Oh yeah.
but you're still learning how to like balance yourself, right? So
Yeah.
I can see there being a place for it. It's maybe not quite there yet, but it's probably not that far.
No, especially the skateboard thing, because I know there was a game that came out some time ago, called Skate, and one of the peripheral devices you can get for it is a skateboard, where you don't have to obviously go, but it has enough sensors in it or buttons in it that in order to do certain specific things, you could actually get on it and make it move in order to have it correspond to the game. Um, and I remember seeing clips online, not skateboarding, but someone had basically had a lot of money. Let's start there. But they bought this like funky omnidirectional treadmill that comes with like
Mhm.
a body harness, and they have the 3D goggles and everything, and all the controls and a chest sensor. And basically, what their shtick was, they were like, "I want to lose weight, and I don't like going outside."
Hmm.
So they were like, "But I need to walk." And they're like, "I'm gonna walk Skyrim." Which notably is a very large game. Like the geography of the game is very physically large.
Mm.
And they're like, I'm just gonna walk. I'm gonna walk from this city to that city, from that place to this place.
Interesting.
And I think they have a YouTube channel where you can just watch their walk and their commentary on, I don't know what the commentary would be on, to be honest, probably just life or maybe the game, but it's literally just them walking through Skyrim. Um, Maybe they have like cool tunes playing, and so you could just have a video up with some nice music and like sort of ambient human walking sounds. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I imagine if
Yeah.
you're into the game, then it's probably something where if you're a fellow gamer into the game, then you can have conversations about like where you're at and, like some of the things you would do
Oh
if you were
yeah.
playing a live game, right? I mean, there could be, I'm sure there's things that it may not appeal to like the person off the street, but I'm sure it would work for somebody who's like aware of like what the game is and they can watch they have maybe they're doing the same thing, right? Maybe they're walking watching somebody and they're walking on a treadmill or something, right?
Yeah.
So and that's then it's a community kind of doing the same thing, like supporting each other in that way.
Oh yeah. That would be great. That kind of stuff I find so cool. And then like when it comes to video games and you're saying sort of uh, applicable skills and learning, um, to bring up like the Gran Turismo movie where they literally had a competition where they were like, if you're the best Gran Turismo player and you're getting track lap speeds that are rivaling and or beating professionals, they did a camp. They taught these people how to drive in the real vehicles, and
Mm-hmm.
based on the knowledge they had, because the simulation of Gran Turismo, it's actually a very hard game to play if you're trying to play it like a game, because you have things like traction and
Mm-hmm.
oversteering and all of those things that make those games very difficult to do, and you actually have to drive the car. Um, and so yeah, they really did it. It's super cool. If you're watching and you have not seen the film Gran Turismo, please do. It is super cool.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a real fun. It's actually a well done movie.
yeah.
It's really exciting because you're going, this really happened, right, for the most part.
Oh
So
yeah. But like even I have a buddy of mine who loves plane simulators, like
mhm.
to the extent where he's got like a whole setup mounted to his chair, where he's got the throttle, a bunch of controls for the various devices around the plane, and he flies. I believe he flies specific planes that he likes flying.
Mhm.
Uh, and like he actually has to go through like takeoff protocol and check the engines and what's the fuel levels and chart the course and all of it, and then actually fly the plane as though it were real. And like when it comes to that, my brain immediately goes, okay, if you have that kind of hardware and the software you're getting is advanced enough to replicate a plane, in my mind you're just getting plane training. That's what you're doing.
Yeah,
The
like
difference.
how would how different would it be for somebody to go in a plane for real I'm sure again it's a similar thing. Like there's probably the stress of like, the actually feeling the altitude and stuff, but
Yeah.
you would know, you would be familiar with all the instruments, and you'd know like what to do at what point. So it's just a matter of like, maybe having an instructor there once or twice just to make sure that you're, not going to freak out.
Yeah, a little safety net and go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's stuff like that I think is interesting. There's also I've seen multiple people have sort of similar setups for a game about driving 18 wheelers, like transport trucks, and they have these super sophisticated setups. Like these have got to be custom built things where like it's got usually 3 monitors or 4 monitors that echo the 2 main windows at the front of the truck, and then the side doors, your car windows or truck windows, the door windows. And then they actually have like the steering wheel, all the pedals, the clutch, and the gear shift that has, what is it? Something like 40 gears, because those 18 wheelers have crazy amounts of gears.
Right.
And they've got like the HUD with all the gauges and everything. Like it's wild to me because when they're filming themselves doing this, you're like, oh, it's a truck driver. He's just driving, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, he's doing some really weird stuff and somehow getting the truck to do things it feels like it shouldn't do. And you're like, this is a game, but like, yeah, at some point you're just driving a truck. So I'm always curious, yeah, like at what level or amount of time can you say, hey, if it's a plane, hey, you go up to a pilot school and you go, hey, I've clocked X many hours in this game. I've gotten X certifications from it. Can you validate this? Have me do a test, and can I get a pilot's license?
Do you think there's going to be like, because they're already talking about doing like, for truck drivers, doing like having, instead of having a truck driver, having it be like a self-driving truck. But I wonder if there's like a compromise there where you actually have somebody who's like, a bunch of people are trained to remotely drive the truck, right? So everything is done, they're there to monitor, make sure everything is, and so really at the end of the day, then they can just switch out a shift after 8 hours. And then because one of the biggest things is like truck drivers driving, the whole point for them is that they're trying to get their whatever they're carrying with them, their haul, to the place as soon as possible, so they can pick up another haul to make money. So they make the money is when, how quickly they can get across from one to the other. And therefore, like there's always that element of sleep deprivation, right? So, and that's where a lot of those accidents happen. And of course, if you have like a self-driving truck, that would alleviate that. But I do wonder if there's like, it may be too much. If they were to, if a company could say, it's a self-driving truck, but there's actually somebody remotely, there making sure that, things are working correctly, and in the event that there's some kind of issue, they can take on a manual element to it or something
and intervene.
Or I don't know, I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but I do wonder if there's like a world where that could be a way that they have a gamer, right?
Like hook in and do it. I mean, my concern, the premise I think is fabulous. My concern is if it is something like you mentioned where it's self-driving and you just have someone basically monitoring it in case. My concern with that would be, what if that person snoozes, or what if that person, I'm gonna go grab a quick glass of water, it'll be fine.
Then you have two people there.
You'd have to, yeah.
So you're paying somebody to essentially watch it. You're not necessarily paying them the same amount you would pay them for
being in the truck.
So they're getting paid much less. So that's where they're saving their money. But then, so they may have somebody who's like a a 2-person operation that's being paid much less money. They're just essentially there to babysit, and they're if that one person has to go to the bathroom, then the other person is
swap out.
swapped out, right?
I mean, what I've heard of with transport truck drivers is that there are a number of, usually it's partners, so like husband, wife, maybe a gay couple or a lesbian couple, whatever, but it's 2 people that'll operate the truck. So that way, basically, they can, okay, we'll drive for 8 hours, we'll stop, new driver gets in, other driver sleeps, stuff like that, and just to keep each other company. I do find the idea of like, however, I think it'd be, if the remote end of it, I think it'd be interesting if they did hire someone to drive the truck remotely. That way, yeah, they could operate the vehicle just like a drone. Do everything you got to do, park it, drive it. Because I feel like for me, I still like the idea of there being a person behind it. And you can absolutely make the argument that, oh, well, once the technology is there, a robot driver will be a far more capable, diligent, aware being to drive than a human being. And maybe at some level that's correct. But like, yeah, I think the idea of hiring a person to like armchair drive an 18-wheeler around would be super cool, or like a bus driver, right? Like, don't have a physical driver in the bus, but a remote person. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Also, I gotta say, for the book that you're working on, this has the least amount of hockey, and this poor man looks so stressed.
Oh well, I guess that's why I chose these pages, because they're not they're a little bit easier for me to talk and draw. If I had to draw like actual players playing, I mean, first of all, I don't necessarily want to give anything away, and
no spoilers.
Number 2, I have to make sure, like, because I'm not familiar with playing hockey, so like I'm always like checking references and making sure that like I've the way that they're holding their the sticks and the positions they're in, like all that stuff. I try to make sure that there's an accuracy to it. So it requires me to for sure like look at reference and study it and make sure I'm getting it right. Whereas this is a little bit more like, like there are people moving and stuff, but it's a little bit easier for me. I've already, even though even in the pencil stage, or I've checked all that stuff with the hockey players, but like the inking stage is like, okay, I want to make sure 100% that I've got it right. So, like I'll adjust. That's my opportunity to adjust things to make sure, I'm getting that stance correct, right? Whereas this is not as big a deal, right? I have the choice of how they stand, and the Dom Riggio, the writer, he's not really going to be concerned about that as much, right?
Fair, yeah. As long as it's a person standing, you're pretty good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, this poor guy. It's also like I continue to marvel at your diversity in style, because like I find it flips and changes so much that I can never be like, oh, this is Keith's style. I now know, like, I've seen enough of your art that I can look at any version of it, and go, oh, that's a Keith drawing. I know what that looks like. And like we've talked about this before, and I think it has to do with line weight. I think you're correct about that. But even just the way that you draw in general, it's wild how much it changes.
Yeah.
And also, how fun was that bus to draw, or not fun, perhaps?
Oh, I loved drawing this bus. Yeah, for sure. It's fun to, like, especially I've got all these like speed lines that are it's like it's moving fast, right? So
yeah,
I get to do that kind of stuff where I'm, making it feel like it's moving fast and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, I like doing things that are, I don't always get to do all the time. So
Novelty helps, right? Keep things interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well,
So,
Keith, shockingly, we are at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
no,
It's been a whole hour, my guy. As always, Keith, thanks for hanging out, man. It's super cool chatting with you.
yeah, no, this is a fun way, a little bit different from what we've chatted about, but I think it's it's all connected, right? It's all still
Absolutely.
similar. So
Yeah. And for the folks out there in YouTube land, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. Comment down below what you thought of Keith's inking, what you thought of the conversation. Feel free to drop questions and we can try to answer them next time. Subscribe for more. Be sure to check out Keith. Oh my goodness. Yes, phone. Right. I know. It's telling me it's time to write. Yeah. Subscribe. Check out Keith's work. Keith, when's the next show you're going to be at?
So I have one more thing for the year. I'm doing my annual book signing, Comic One Books in Stony Creek on the 15th, 16th of December, whatever
Right
that
on.
Saturday is. So I'll be there with my latest books, Summer on the Swing, Cushing County, and the latest issue of Saltwater. And then, I'll be doing do commissions and just, it's a nice hang. I just love the store. It's a real good family vibe. So if you're in the area, come on by, say hi to Paolo, the owner. Oftentimes Casey Parsons is there, and
right on.
friends, Gary and and Vince and the crew that's usually hanging out. So
Love it. Well, that is Comic One Books in Stony Creek. I believe it is. Oh, give me the calendar. Thank you. December 13th or 14th?
Saturday.
The 13th then. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. 13th.
Awesome. Yeah. So, folks, come check out Keith's books in Stony Creek, Comic One Books, December 13th. And